So I'm guessing I take the orange as well as the basil and parsley and do a little Frank bouquet with it. Figure out how Frank does this.
It's time for another Epicurious video, and today we're going to be seeing how Frank and another home cook makes their sauce Bolognese. If you're new to the channel, my name is James. I've been cooking for many years in many different places in the United States and over here in Europe, and I have plenty of other recipes on my YouTube channel. If you do happen to enjoy this video today, then guys, please be sure to give it a like, give it a share, and don't forget to hit that bell notification so you don't miss out on any future content, and maybe we can actually get on Epicurious one day and make something.
I can usually handle a lot of meat, but that was really dirty. I'm not gonna say that. I'm gonna stop. This is a family-friendly program.
Hi, I'm Frank. I'm a professional chef, and this is a $250 Bolognese.
I'd like to know where Frank shops, and I don't think the short ribs here were the most expensive thing on the list.
Hi, I'm John. I'm a home chef, and this is gonna be a $25 Bolognese.
Let's see what John's making. He has some minced meat, looks like some pork and some beef, some bacon as well. Garlic is not always added in Italian cuisine. Actually, a lot of recipes that you may think has garlic, like Bolognese, is not necessary. Now, Bolognese, even though it's from Bologna, is a type of ragu, and in Napoli they actually have their own style, which is what it looks like Frank is going to be making today.
Again.
Oh my God.
Stroke the celery.
Okay, I just got really nervous. This is like something from the Flintstones.
He's right about that. It does look like something from the Flintstones.
The Bolognese I planned on making, you'd probably see in a more expensive Italian restaurant. It's better ingredients, higher quality, and because of the high quality, you're gonna pay a little more. It's gonna be expensive.
This is a lot of ingredients to make a Bolognese.
That's true, you can pay more, but $250 for Bolognese.
For my Bolognese, I was planning on using short ribs.
This is meat. What the hell do you do with this?
I was gonna use guanciale,
Guanciale. Oh, it's not pancetta.
red wine, good olive oil.
This looks like just some really fancy olive oil and wine. If I'm allowed to, definitely want to take this bad boy home.
Lots of basil, a little bit of orange rind.
I don't know why we have an orange. I don't think it belongs in ragu sauce.
The orange is interesting. It looks like Frank went all out because, I mean, he even bought purple and yellow carrots.
These are the things that I believe make the foundation of a good meat sauce or a Bolognese. For my fresh made pasta, I was gonna use duck eggs.
Oh, lordy.
Duck eggs are gonna be a little bit richer than chicken eggs.
If none of you have ever used duck eggs before, they are quite large, so you don't have to use as many of them. And if you actually have duck eggs, fresh duck eggs at home, they're extremely rich, and they will have a different flavor with them as well.
Very surprised about the pasta. Making homemade pasta for the first time. Gonna make grandma proud.
I was gonna use 00 Italian flour.
00, like James Bond. Turns out this is laminated pasta. I don't know what that means.
And I had everything together to make a fresh dough for some homemade garlic knots.
Like what? That's insane. By my count, I'm making not one, but 2 doughs. We shall overcome.
Frank is horrible. He specifically made this recipe more complicated than he needed to because he knew in the end that he wasn't going to be making it. One, for Frank, it's not a big deal to make these things, but for somebody that doesn't even know really on what they're doing, I mean, come on.
So for John's recipe, we have simpler ingredients. Ground beef and ground pork, some pecorino romano, some butter, tomato paste. Instead of guanciale, we're gonna use bacon, dried pasta, parsley, garlic, carrots, onions, and some white wine. John's ingredients might be simpler than mine, but I think with good technique, we can elevate them and make them better. If I had to guess, this would probably cost about 25 bucks. On the money, huh? Okay.
This video is a little old, but all of this for 25 bucks is not that bad, especially if you've been shopping recently and you've had to look at the prices.
If I had to guess, $300, maybe $400 recipe? That is too much money for pasta sauce.
252 bucks to make this. And one of the most expensive items on the list is the olive oil.
The sauce I plan to make sounds really fancy, but at the end of the day, it's a fairly simple sauce.
I don't see the actual instructions, and it doesn't look like he left me any. This is gonna be a challenge for sure. Like there's really no direction.
Frank, come on, he didn't even leave him some instructions. Just the ingredients, not even like a little bit on a step-by-step process. Let's see if he phones a friend on like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Could I actually get Rose on the phone now? I have some questions. Hey Rose, it's John, how are you?
Good, how are you, John? It's nice to see you.
Ooh, that's a strong echo.
Freaking out a little bit. So first up for his meat sauce, Frank has short ribs, which I've never worked with before.
With short ribs, I think the best way to go is to sear them a little bit first and get some nice browning going on, and then cook them low and slow in a sauce.
When you're cooking with short ribs, you need to cook them for a very long time if you want to make them tender. And one of the best ways to do that is to braise them.
Olive oil in there. So let's throw in our beautiful short ribs. Look how nice these hunks of meat are. Sorry, was that sexual again? I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to. Well, she called it a hunk of meat too on the phone, so it's not just me. So while that's cooking, I'm gonna cut up my guanciale. Again, this is the jowl. It's fatty, as we know, just like bacon.
After all the carbonara videos that I'm sure all of you guys have seen and that we've reviewed, I don't think I need to mention the difference between bacon and guanciale. Guanciale is from the cheek and it's cured, not smoked.
Looks like it's getting nice and brown on that one side. Again, I know Rosemary said I don't want to fully cook it in here, so I'm just looking to get it nice and brown on all the sides, and then I'll take it out.
I thought he said for a moment that Rosemary doesn't want to go in here. I'm thinking of herbs, I'm not thinking of names. So.
John gave me some simple ingredients, but the way I'm gonna tackle this is I'm gonna try to build layers of flavor in my pot. Just a little bit of oil, bacon, you stack up, and we're gonna just cut it into nice strips, and it goes right into the pot.
You see what Frank just did by cutting the bacon in half, stacking it, and then cutting it? It's a little quicker. And this is a little kitchen tip, instead of just cutting it from one end to the other.
Bacon's gonna get brown, it's gonna render off some of its fat, and we're gonna take it out and leave the fat in there to brown off our vegetables.
Now that the meat's resting and braised on all the sides, I'm gonna start the sauce. Our onions, garlic, carrots, and the guanciale.
This bacon fat is kind of liquid gold at this point. So once the bacon starts to get brown, I'm gonna take it out. Next thing we're gonna do is brown our meats, the beef and the pork. And I'm doing all of this over a fairly high heat because I wanna get some browning. Browning equals flavor. And this is kind of our second layer of flavor.
When you only have one pot to cook with, this is something that you have to do in the kitchen. You have to keep reusing the same pot and taking out the ingredients and then adding new ingredients to that to sear them off if you want to get that flavor. If you were to add all the ingredients at once, instead of sautéing them, you will be boiling them or steaming them because they will release their moisture, and instead of having that contact with the surface of the pan, they're not going to get that same flavor.
I'm gonna strain off some of the fat, not all of the fat. You want some of the fat in there. I'm gonna add it back to the pan, not all of it, and then I'm gonna start adding my aromatic vegetables. Onions, I have a clove of garlic that I'm just gonna whack up, carrots, and I have some celery. All of these ingredients right now are kind of fundamentals to a good ragu or a good bolognese.
What Frank is referring to is the sofrito, or in France, the mirepoix, which are the aromatic vegetables, carrots, onion, and celery. Now, the Spanish sofrito is not the same as the Italian. A Spanish sofrito normally has onion, garlic, pimientos, a lot of olive oil, and you can also add tomato to it.
Originally, John had butter at this stage. I'd much rather add the butter at the end of the sauce. I think adding the butter at the end when we actually toss the pasta is going to give us a better flavor.
Frank's going to be adding butter. If this was a French sauce, it would be normal. But it being an Italian sauce, well, risotto does have butter with it, and you do make like a sauce with the risotto. If there are any Italian chefs watching, let me know your thoughts on adding butter.
So I'm guessing I take the orange as well as the basil and parsley and do a little Frank bouquet with it. Figure out how Frank does this.
What the bloody hell is he doing with the basil and the orange? If you're going to be adding fresh basil to this, it's better to add it closer to the end, not the beginning. Why? You can lose some of that aromatics and flavor.
I find that orange rind bumps up that tomato flavor. It has a little bit of sharpness to kind of cut some of that fat.
Hold on.
If you're going to be adding orange, which is a little different, but if you're going to be adding it with anything, you want to make sure that you don't add any of the white bit. That part is bitter, and it will add a bitterness to whatever sauce that you're making.
Vegetables, you can see on the bottom of the pot, we're getting a little brown. I'm going to add my bacon back.
Hold on.
And I'm going to add all of my meat back.
No. Wait, maybe.
And we give it a stir. I'm gonna add my tomato paste. When I do this sauce, I always add a little more tomato, but tomato paste is super concentrated, has a nice rich flavor. This doesn't need red wine. There's a lot of flavors going on, so I'm gonna add just a nice couple of lugs of white wine. And I truly believe that you don't need to use great wine for this. I think boxed wine is okay. Give me the box, I'll make it work. It'll still taste great.
Frank's right about that. You don't have to buy a very expensive bottle of wine to cook with. You don't. You can cook with cheaper wines. However, it does matter on what type of wine that you're using because that will affect the flavor of the sauce. If you use a wine that is drier and not as sweet, it won't add that sweetness. If you add a wine that is very sweet, it will add a sweetness to the sauce. Again, depending on how much you add, of course. And when you're reducing it, if you add a lot of wine and you're standing over the fumes, you can get a little tipsy.
A little for the sauce, and a little for me. Ooh, it's a nice vintage.
That's the chef's tax. A little wine for the sauce and a little sip for the chef.
I don't cook with red wine too much, but when I do, you gotta drink it. So my red wine's cooked down. Now I'm gonna go ahead and add my veal stock. And I've never worked with veal stock before, and it turns out that this is homemade from Frank. Thank you, Frank. Little handy dandy bouquet with the orange peel and the basil.
And we're just gonna add enough chicken broth to basically cover the meat. One thing home cooks don't do is you should be tasting. And I think I'm good with seasoning right now.
Again, I fully agree with Frank on this. You have to taste the sauce during the cooking process, not just at the end. That way, if you need to adjust something, you can.
I'm gonna lower the heat just a little and just let it simmer away happily. And what I'm looking for is that this is gonna coat our pasta.
I could just buy crushed tomatoes, but no, I get to get my hands dirty, so. Woo! My tomatoes got a little overexcited.
I think John's been watching Uncle Roger. If you're gonna be crushing the tomatoes by hand, one, give your hands a quick wash just so they're clean, or two, you can use gloves.
And I just want to get it to a nice consistency where I don't feel any giant clumps. It smells so good. I actually smell the orange zest. This is the beautiful braised short rib. Just a nice dash of salt, black pepper. I have these beautiful Calabrian chili flakes, but this will give the sauce a nice little kick to it. I don't know how spicy these are, so I'm only gonna add, let's say like half a teaspoon. And I'm gonna let it simmer for a few hours, covered. I'm feeling pretty good. This was challenging, but not as hard as I expected. After that, I think everyone deserves one of these. Thanks, Frank.
And you always want to braise on a simmer, meaning a very light boil.
John gave me like kind of a soft kind of deli loaf. It's not a bad thing. I like something a little sturdier.
So I've never done this before, but Rose gave me a lot of great tips. Gonna use a pizza hook, which is there, and get that dough to a nice consistency where I could almost stretch it and look through it like a window, she said. We'll see. 00 flour, salt, sugar, the dry yeast, olive oil, and some water. Please let this work. Ingredients are combining, looking good so far. Let me turn up a little more. Okay, too much, we're gonna go back down. This is kind of silly to do all this work when I could just go downstairs to the pizzeria and get some garlic knots, but in true Frank fashion, we're gonna do it the fancy way.
I think it'd be fun to cook on Epicurious with either Frank, Lorenzo, and Saul. Saul's funny.
And at this point, I will add the chipotle. So I'm just gonna close my eyes and think this is chipotle. Yes, it's chipotle. Yes, lots of chipotle. Listen, there's nothing wrong with this sauce. I love this sauce. I love it.
First thing I'm gonna do is cut it in half. So I'm gonna use unsalted butter, and it's room temperature. Always fresh cracked black pepper. I control the salt now. I like pecorino cheese a lot better than like Parmesan, and I'll probably get some hate mail about that. I just think it has a lot more flavor than Parmesan. So I'm really happy that John chose pecorino.
The sad thing is, Frank, is that today you can get hate mail for even picking your nose the wrong way. I mean, honestly, if you do something this way, people hate it. If you do it that way, people hate it. You can't please everyone.
It's a lot of garlic. I don't need this much garlic. I'm gonna also put a little chopped parsley in there, a little bit of olive oil, and then bring it all together.
I mean, that looks like dough to me. I think this is good. I feel like this is good to go. That looks pretty smooth to me, I think. Yeah, let's try that. Confidence. So I'm gonna transfer this dough into a bowl with olive oil and just let it rise and really activate that yeast. I'm gonna cover up the dough with some plastic wrap and just let this rise up. The dough has risen quite a bit, as you can tell. Oh my God, it's so nice. Maybe I just play with this and we call it a day, you know?
John does seem pretty happy with the dough.
I really have no idea what I'm doing. Okay, I'm just gonna try, we'll see. Like, this is what I was thinking, I don't know if it makes sense. Maybe it's like a cinnamon bun. Garlic knot?
Considering that it's called a garlic knot, I would assume that you just roll it out into a thin little strip and you tie it into a loose knot.
We're gonna leave this as test subject A. That one was more of a swirl action than a knot. So this one, I'm gonna roll it out and actually tie it like a true knot. And there's a garlic knot. God, I'm so smart. And then I've seen Frank do this before. A little nest for the eggs, if you will. Maybe should have made a deeper well in there. Oh, try 3, whoop! Oh no. My little lava didn't work out, but we'll fix it.
You can mix it in a bowl if need be, but it's fun doing it on the counter. However, you need to make sure that the well is big enough. Otherwise, if your little volcano explodes, you know, you have eggs running everywhere, and before you know it, you have a mess.
So John gave me fettuccine. It's a dry pasta product. Fresh pasta is kind of a special occasion thing. If you add the pasta to the pot when it's not boiling, it's going to start clumping together. Most people think that it clumps together. They need to add oil to the water. Not necessary. No oil in the water. So we're waiting for the water to boil, and normally I just have a beer. Not the option here. I want a beer. It's never too early. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, right? That's what they always say.
I agree. Having a beer right now does sound like a good idea. One little thing about boiling pasta and oil, you will see like a lot of chefs are split on the decision. Some say yes, some say no. Oil and water don't mix, and if you are going to be straining your pasta anyway afterwards, you can oil the pasta afterwards so it doesn't stick together, especially if you're going to be saving it for later. That you have to do. But during the cooking process, is a bit of a waste.
Salt, texture's really weird, really sticky. My grandma would be so proud of me. God rest her soul if she saw me making dough for homemade pasta. Like, this is pretty cool. Still a little sticky, so I'm gonna add just a little more flour. This is work. Working up a sweat. And if you are not a fan of mess, I do not recommend making this because, as you can see, it's pretty messy. The dough is wrapped, so I'm gonna let it rest for about an hour.
We are boiling. I'm going to add a fair amount of salt. If you don't have high blood pressure, don't worry about it. It's going to be fine. I'm going to drop my pasta in. At this point, you don't want to leave it alone, right? You want to continue to stir so that it doesn't stick together, right? So I'm going to just let it cook a little, and I'm going to come back to it. Traditionally, I like to use a thicker pasta or a pasta that has some sort of shape to it so that it holds the sauce. Fettuccine is not horrible, but a wider pasta like the pappardelle that I wanted to do has more surface area for the pasta sauce to cling to.
Very true. There are so many different types of pasta, and some are better suited for a liquidy sauce than others.
Just our dough, a little for good luck. Take a chunk of dough like that. I want it to get super thin. Okay, not that difficult yet. Roll out this other, whoop. So now to get that stained glass effect, I'm just gonna lay out some leaves of fresh parsley and basil. So now I'm gonna take my other piece of pasta, cover it, and then put it through the roller again to make it that nice laminated pasta that Frank so very much wants. That kind of does look like stained glass. I'm gonna go in and make nice, thick strips of pasta. I think the nice thickness in these noodles will complement the meat. Now we're gonna finish up our beautiful laminated pasta with some flour. I think this will make for some really nice pasta to complement our ragu.
John did a good job. It is easy making pasta. However, if you've never made pasta before, it can be a little challenging.
Tasting your pasta and testing it using your teeth is the best way to do it. Throwing it on the wall, I don't know what kind of walls you have at home, but I don't want pasta sticking on my wall.
Yeah, the pasta test by sticking it on the ceiling or anything is a waste of pasta, and you just make a mess.
Look,
No, Matilda.
it's done.
The daughter Matilda, she's allowed to do it. That's cute. Well done, Matilda. You can do it. No, you, Gordon.
Now, when you're cooking pasta, though, for, say, a pasta salad or anything, and you're going to be serving it cold, you need to overcook the pasta, because if you cook the pasta al dente and then you serve it cold, it's not going to be a very pleasant pasta salad. If you overcook it, which is not normally a good thing, but if you do, when you serve it cold, because obviously the pasta will harden when it chills, it'll be better.
I'm gonna take my pasta out and I'm gonna add it to my sauce. I'm not too worried about having some extra water on there. It's not a big deal, because we're gonna finish cooking the pasta in the pot. I know it's probably much easier to use a colander over the sink, but this, I promise you, is gonna yield a better product at the end.
So now let's finish off our bolognese. Oh yeah, this meat is super tender. It's really just coming apart. I'm pulling it apart lightly with a fork. What I want to do is get an even consistency of the short rib throughout the dish. You know, I imagine Frank is doing something really phenomenal with my bolognese recipe.
I'm gonna take a little bit of that butter that I talked about that I saved from the beginning, and I'm gonna add it to the sauce.
I wonder what Vincenzo would think about this recipe. I don't think he's reviewed this video. He needs to.
I'm gonna do a little taste test to make sure it's cooked all the way through. Oh my God, oh God.
I'm gonna add a little more of this pasta water, right? Because again, I want my pasta to finish cooking in the sauce.
Whenever you're tasting the sauce, you don't want to put the same instrument that you used to taste the sauce with back into the sauce.
You can see that the sauce is starting to stick to the pasta, and I think I'm done here. Now all I gotta do is plate it up.
Because it's fresh pasta, it's actually gonna cook really quickly in about 2 to 3 minutes. Olive oil, throw in some garlic, God, that's beautiful. Lower the heat a little bit. I'm just gonna transfer it right from the boiling water into our sauce. This feels like how they do it in the restaurants. I've seen it, but never actually did it myself. This is pretty cool.
Well, the setup is a little different and it depends on the restaurant as well. But normally when you're making like a sauce like this and it's super quick for service, it's already made, you have a little bit of the sauce already warm. You put that into the pan, you drop the pasta in the hot water, it comes out, the sauce is hot, the pasta is hot, you mixy, and it's ready to serve.
So all that's left to do is to toss these knots with the compound butter and they'll be ready to eat. Just gonna use all of it. It looks so delicious, come on. Oh God, it smells so good. You can really smell all the flavors in the compound butter. These look awesome.
I would suggest putting on some gloves and using your hands to mix these little rolls, and maybe also in a bigger bowl if you have one, it helps.
Okay, I'm gonna cut it on a nice steep angle.
Oh my God, it looks so good. And I'm gonna try to be fancy like restaurant, like Frank does.
I'm gonna use my tongs to twirl it up together, and I'm gonna carry that over to my plate. I dripped a little. I'm gonna spoon a little of my sauce on top. I like a little more sauce than the Italians would.
I like a nice saucy pasta, and I wanna make sure there's a lot of meat. So I'm gonna go in there and grab some of the good bits. Ever so lightly, throw a little olive oil on there. That's good stuff.
And then just a touch of extra virgin olive oil. Gives it a little shine. Take your bread, put it on the plate so it stands up a little, with little bunny ears. Pasta Bolognese with garlic bread.
I love this stuff, and at the restaurant, I just have them keep going and going and going. So I'm gonna do the same. And then the final pièce de résistance, 2 of our homemade garlic knots. And there you have it, some expensive bolognese.
When I was in Naples, I went to one of the famous places in Napoli to have ragu. And I'll tell you, it was delicious, but delicious. So was the pizza. And to be honest, I'd go back to Napoli just for the food.
That looks really good. So with your dish, I didn't really change much. I kind of focused on like the layers of flavor that were going on. You had some really great ingredients, and all I did was focus on good technique.
These are a lot of first-time techniques for me, but I think I did you justice.
Right? Good. The flavor is great. The meat is amazing. But I love the chew of this. It takes that meaty sauce and it like stands up to it. I'm gonna have another bite.
That's what I expected. Does it taste like yours?
It's pretty close. I wish the first time I made pasta and bread it was that good.
Well, I had a good teacher. Aw, get over here.
Great to finally meet you.
You too, and your eyes really are as blue as the ocean. Like I could get lost in them. Yeah.
Both of them did good, however, they both made different styles of ragu. The Bolognese in America is a very generic type of sauce that people just think comes from Bologna, if people know that anyway. The one thing I would say, besides a few of the questionable ingredients, like the orange and maybe the garlic as well, depending on who you ask, is that the sauce with the short ribs was a little thin, and Frank's Bolognese also looked a little on the dry side. In any case, they both did a very good job, especially John for cooking for the very first time and making all of this. He did a very good job. If there are any Italian chefs watching, then let me know your thoughts in detail down below. And if you guys have any other suggestions, then let me know in the comments as well. And don't forget to share, like, and subscribe before leaving this video. And if you want to see another video, then be sure to check out this next one coming up. And I will see you guys again very soon. Until then,